Hello, these are the new metal diff gears for my FCX24 Power Wagon. To fit them, I need to remove both axles from the chassis, but first I had to undo these two grub screws on the drive shafts so I could slide them off the diff shafts in the axles. Now I needed to take out these screws to remove the suspension links and shocks. Then the axles could be taken out of the chassis. Before I removed the front axle, I had to unplug the servo from port 1 on the ESC receiver combo. Then I took out these screws attaching the steering links to the portals. The links could now be taken off the axle assembly. There's no need to remove the link from the servo. Now I needed to remove the screws that attach the links and shocks so I could take the front axle out of the chassis. I took these screws out of the portals and then I could slide them off each end of the axle. Next I removed the top screws from the diff cover so the servo and mounting bracket could be taken off the axle. Then I removed the bottom screws from the diff cover and I could now split the axle casings apart and see the plastic diff gears. I had to push the smaller gear through the axle to remove it. I needed to take off the bearing so I could use it on the new metal diff gear. To do this, I took out the screw from the front of the plastic gear. Then I could pull it off the shaft and remove the bearing. Then I slid the bearing on the new metal diff gear and pushed it back into the axle casing and added lots of grease. Now it was time to put in the bigger diff gears. The shafts from the portals are supposed to slide into these holes at each end. Unfortunately, I couldn't do this because the holes were too tight. One diff assembly was tight and the other one was really tight. I tried to make the holes bigger with some needle files and this worked on one of the diff gears and the shafts slid in. Unfortunately, this didn't work on the other one. So I had to use a small drill to carefully open up the holes just enough so when I pushed the shafts in they wouldn't be loose. There were bearings on the original large plastic diff gears and I had to take these off to reuse them on the new metal diff gears. Once they were on, I put it back into the other half of the axle casing with plenty more grease. Then I screwed both casings back together and reassembled the axle. I repeated this process with the rear axle and fixed them both back into the chassis. I ran the chassis upside down, testing it for a few minutes, and everything seemed okay. Then I ran it over a plastic tub in low gear and high gear, and that was okay too. My final test was to place it against the table leg and hold it so it couldn't move. Then I ran it to see if the gear mesh slipped under heavy strain, which it didn't. So now the upgrade was finished. I hope this video helped you if you're thinking of buying these metal diff gears, or if you've already bought them and haven't fit them yet. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon.